If you're listening to this podcast, you might think you're playing the real estate game, but you're not, okay? You're playing the game of money. And not only that, they're not playing their own game. They're playing someone else's. Like, they think they should be doing X amount of deals, or Grant Cardone says the money in your bank is the rats are eating at it. And like, well, you're an idiot, and like, go invest in everything. What is it for you that will give you peace of mind? I go back to that guy where I asked him, would $150,000 in your bank account give you more peace of mind and sleep better at night, or having the equity in the property and being able to do some of the other things, owning that asset? And I'm like, that's what it comes down to is, are you playing your own game? Do you know how to play the game of money? Do you know how to win it? Do you have good habits with the money? But then are you playing your own? Like, so that way someone doesn't come in and they say, well, you should be doing this. What do you mean I should be? Do you really know what my goals are and what I want for this business? Or is it just like, you think this now?
Welcome, and thank you for joining us for today's episode of Disruptors, where millionaires are made. Today we have David Richter with Simple CFO, and David flew in from St. Cloud, Florida to talk about how to go from 7-figure years to 7-figure months. Now, I'm on a mission to create 100 millionaires. The information on this show alone is enough to help you become a millionaire in the next 5 to 7 years. If you'll take consistent action, you will become one. And before we jump in, if you're here to learn how real entrepreneurs built real empires, hit that subscribe button, because every week we drop lessons that can create your first or next million. And today's show is brought to you by objectionproof.ai, the only free tool that analyzes sales calls based on the objection-proof selling formula. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So it's been a little over a year since you've been on the show, and I wanted to ask you, you're working with a lot of businesses out there. I think several hundred businesses out there.
Yep.
What has changed in the last year and a half to get people caught up?
Man, to get people caught up in the last year and a half. Well, I live in Florida, so I feel like that market has definitely changed over the last year and a half, where I literally just bought a house in the area where 2 years ago, the people got in there and they had the people that went in there, it was wholetailed to them. But it was the top of the market. It was, they were competing, and all the different offers were flying back and forth, like a ton of offers being put on this one house. And it was just lipstick on a pig. They got in there, they did a bunch of work, they updated everything. We come in here a year and a half later, buy the house, and we go to the appraisal because we actually put in for asking price. We get to the appraisal process, and the appraisal drops at $30K. And I'm like, whoa. What is this? So then friends in Florida and clients we have in Florida, same thing. They're feeling the downward effect of like, okay, it's slowing down. There's more, houses on the market. I think just yesterday, it was it's either 4,000 or 8,000 houses are sitting in Tampa, like on the market right now, where versus some other markets like Rochester, they only have 500. Now it's a little smaller area than Tampa, but not that much smaller. So it's still supply and demand, but in the Florida market, we can definitely see the slowdown. So people are pivoting, where some of the people that might have lower interest rates, they are taking terms deals at this point and those types of things. And that's where a lot of people that, if you're flexible in real estate, that's the great thing about real estate, right? Is you can have one house and do 15 different things with it, just depending on your knowledge base.
Yeah,
so
that's really true. There are all these different ways to get in and out of
exactly.
House. So then that house, the appraisal came in low. Did you pay less or more than what they bought it for?
So we paid less than what they bought it for
after
2 years ago.
Everything.
And they put a new roof on. They did new AC. Like, they did some major upgrades to the house as well. And we still got it for $30K less from the appraisal, not from us asking or me being a great negotiator. Yeah. So the appraisal.
Yeah, it's fascinating, right? Because a couple of years ago, it seems like Florida, the party would never end.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. Right. Big time.
And I think a couple of hurricanes changed the tune.
That can definitely change it. We're right in the middle, so we're insulated. So for us, I think it's just the cooling off of the market in that area. And I know from several of the clients, there's different markets that are going that direction. The major one, the ones that see wild swings. Do you see that here in Phoenix?
We see wild swings here, but I don't know.
Do you see any slowdown here? Or more?
Oh, it's definitely slowed down here. It's definitely slowed down. I mean, I'm hearing, not just here, but across the country, there are a lot of wholesalers that things are not quite as hunky-dory as it would appear on social media.
Yeah. I actually counsel with someone every month because I'm a bad person. Just kidding. It's because my wife and I have been seeing someone for since the 7-year itch. That's just one thing. We could go down that rabbit hole. I strongly recommend, even if you don't need it, talk to a third party because our relationship has never been stronger. But we got on there for a regular monthly call. And he's someone that's in this space. He works with a lot of other investors and people in the business world, but he also like does personal marriage counseling as well. And so he got on and said, something's different, like just across the board. I'm seeing it from the West Coast to the East Coast. People are just having more issues, more problems in their business at home. Like he said, I think it's just the general marketplace is just, you can feel it.
So what's weird is I was on a call with some top, like the biggest like hard money lenders in the country.
Yeah.
It was like it was all hands on deck call, right? Like all the,
Yep.
a lot of the biggest hard money lender companies, a lot of the biggest operators in the country. And then I was on the call and I spoke.
Yeah.
And it felt like I was in a different world because the hard money lenders talking about like, a lot of the challenges that a lot of flippers are going through, which makes sense, what's going through with interest rates and, depending on the day, what's going on with Trump and the economy, right?
Yes.
And the operators. But I felt like I was coming in kind of from a completely different place. It's like everyone I talk to is on fire. Everyone I'm talking to is doing great. And I was like really confused, like what is happening here? And then a different client pointed out, it's like, Steve, like you're looking at the wrong way. I was like, well, what do you mean? He's like, everyone you're talking to is doing really well, but you're also coaching them all on sales. Like, oh yeah.
Yeah,
right?
that makes sense.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, because like I was saying, how can every single person I'm talking to, a lead manager, is setting record weeks? How can every acquisition manager I'm coaching like having record months, right? And how can every dispo person like having is just super easy? Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, there's one thing in common. So like it's a completely selfish plug, but like I genuinely like didn't see it. It's one of those things like you're so close to it,
Right.
you don't see it.
Yeah.
And then someone else points out, I was like, hey, dummy, it's this. Like, oh yeah.
Yep.
So let's talk about this now. Obviously, we're talking about finances. We're going to talk a little bit more about it. But so there is a temperature change. There's something different. So again, you're working with how many clients right now?
Over 120.
Over 120.
Yeah.
All right. What are they doing right now to adjust to this environment?
To this environment, they're leaning into what they're good at or picking a lane that they haven't gone down. They're trying to also, there's a very that catchphrase, cash conversion cycle, from when you get a lead in the door, when you first touch it to when you actually get the money in. They're trying to shorten that as much as possible. So some are going to maybe creative deal flow, like if it's a market like Florida where they can go in there and say, okay, can you put money down, do this, and get a chunk of cash up front. Or if they've just been flipping, okay, maybe we can do wholesaling or wholetailing. Can we shorten that cycle a lot? So a lot of people are still burned out because it's like they don't know how to generate the cash quickly, or they've been stuck in a long-term cycle. So we have to try and shorten that for them if they're not already doing that. If they are doing that and it's not working, then it's like, what are the alternatives? Can you put a different tool in your tool belt, like creative financing, something like that? So it's being able to pivot, but still maintain a lane, and still be focused and still go down that right. And they're leaning into and sharpening the axe when a lot of other people are cutting expenses. It's like you have to pour gasoline on the things that are working, like sales and like the marketing, where that's usually the first plug that gets pulled is like anything that's a big expense. It's like, well, no, hold on. Is this getting you more deals in the door? Like if you didn't have this, what would that do to your deal flow? Asking better questions as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing that is interesting, so I was just at a different mastermind, just flew back on for this past week. And in the room, there was a guy who, going over is a hot seat presentation.
Yeah.
And it was pretty clear he didn't like wholesaling, right? Because he's talking about like every answer he gave, it was clearly that he was doing it.
Yeah.
He was trying it, but he wasn't getting the results. But it was clear he wasn't passionate about it.
Okay.
Right. And now my question is like, why are you wholesaling? Like, you clearly don't love it. Why are you doing it? And it's like, well, it's a source of active income. So then the question came, I was like, well, what are other ways to get some active income? So like John Burley, he was on the show. He's been on the show a couple of times. And one of the things I like about what he does is he pays himself on every deal he adds to his portfolio. Right? So he's got a whole bunch of lenders on the back end.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to have money first. You have to have access to capital first. But he's buying deals with other people's money and then paying himself an assignment fee. He calls it a finder's fee. Right? But he pays himself a fee for every property he acquires. So like you can continue to acquire properties right now if that's your model.
Yeah.
As long as you find a way to pay yourself
Yeah.
for every property you buy, as long as it still cash flows after you pay yourself.
Exactly. So if you're that fix and flipper and you take down a fix and flip, but you get at a wholesale price, it's like, do you have an acquisitions company that you can pay, and then you're funding that? Yeah, you're funding it
You
up
still get
front.
the active income.
Exactly. So there are different ways to do that type of thing, and it's like we just have to be creative at this point. I think now, I'm sure on your show someone's had to bring up the book The Road Less Stupid, Keith Cunningham.
Let's talk about it. One of my favorite books. Let's talk about it.
Of all time, it's like, that's my favorite business. I should say profit first, but like number one is his book, The Road Less Stupid, because it teaches you how to think.
Right.
Like that's what the real people that I believe that are separating themselves from the pack right now, they're giving themselves room to think. Like, what should I be doing? How can I make this work? Okay, if this isn't working, what should I be doing? Or do I have the right team in place? Asking themselves the hard question, like he says, the magic question, what don't I see? That should be happening. We even talked about this, I think, right before the podcast, like you were saying, worst case scenario for your leg, it's like, do I need to chop it off? Or like, what's the worst case scenario and can I live with it?
Right.
A lot of people say, what's the best case? What's the worst case? But they don't ask themselves, can I live with the worst case scenario? And Keith says that over and over in that book. And I love it.
So just for context, right? So you guys can kind of see, I'm wearing a boot right now. And the last time you guys saw me, I was wearing a cast. So I ruptured my Achilles tendon playing basketball now a little less than 2.5 weeks ago. About 2.5 weeks ago now. And so I was wearing a cast, right? And I'm flying to Charlotte to speak at Boardroom. And you have an opportunity to speak on the main stage. It's one of those things you got to seize, right?
Yep, exactly.
I got over 200 people there. So you got to seize the opportunity. But I'm in a cast, so I can't really speak. I can't stand, right? I could be in a bar stool. I can be in some other thing. But, like, you can't present with the same energy. Right? On a bar stool or in a nice, comfortable chair, right? It's like, I got to stand. And so I talked to a doctor, and he advised against transitioning to a boot. But I asked the questions, like, okay, like, walk me through the worst case scenarios, and I'll decide whether I can live with those worst case scenarios, right? And so it was like, if I go into a boot now instead of in 2 weeks, which I'm supposed to, what's the downside? And the downside is I can re-rupture this, healing, whatever it looks like. It's not great, obviously. It's like a perforated a piece of paper. It's like, what will happen? It's like, well, if you re-rupture it, then we're definitely going to need surgery because I opted for no surgery. It's like, you definitely need surgery. It's like, okay, so what does that mean? It's like, well, you're basically starting rehab over. It's like, well, I'm only 2 weeks in.
Right.
So worst case, I have to get surgery, which I've done before on my right side when I tore my right Achilles. And then 2 more weeks in recovery time. It's like, I can live with that downside. It sucks, but to speak on stage, I'll live with that downside.
Yeah.
But I asked the questions, what's the worst case scenario? Can I live with that worst case scenario?
Yep. Even while you were talking, I'm like, that was taken right from the book. The Road Less Stupid. So highly recommend that book if you don't have it already. I try. And
it's one of my top 5 favorite books of all time. Like, depending on the day, it might be my favorite, but definitely top 3, top 5 is an incredible book.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Okay. So then, extrapolating from that, right? So again, you got over 100 clients working with you for profit first for real estate investing, right? What else are they doing right now? Is it cash conversion cycle is like the primary focus? Are they playing more defense? Are they playing more offense with their finances?
If we've worked with them for a long time, they should have a good defense in place. Like stacking the cash and having that reserve there to be able to make the moves that other people can't and seize on those opportunities. If it's someone coming in, like right now, people's hair is on fire. There's so many people that are coming in now and they're like, can you do a deal for me? Like, I know I need this and I know I need help, but like, cash is tight right now. I'm like, I totally get that. So that's where if they've been working with us for a while, it's like they've played defense enough to be able to now play offense in whatever market that they're in.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's what I like to see. It's like they've stacked the cash, they've got that there. Now, on the flip side, we have to make sure they do have a good defense in place, because if they're going to go out there and they're going to take the risks, then we have to make sure what is the downside and do we have enough cushion to prepare for the downside? Or if you take this deal down, let's talk about this flip you want to take down. If you have to put your money out, or if you're going to be out there, let's say 6 months, let's project this to 9 months, like how long can you sustain this type of flip? And just being able to project with them longer out to see, like, this might take longer now because of the cooling off. And maybe you're in an insulated market. I used to live outside of Chicago, Northwest Indiana, where, like if Phoenix is like this and if Orlando's like this, then, Northwest Indiana was like this, like a very
insulated.
Very insulated. And that's where if you can feel that in those outer markets like in Orlando or something like that where it's going crazy. Those other markets we're telling too, it's like you might not feel it right now, but you're going to feel it like in the next month or the next year because of what we're seeing out there with supply and demand. So that's where it is defense, but it's positioning themselves to be able to take the offense of like, okay, do we need to pivot? Do we need to do a different marketing campaign? Do we need to go out there and, is it the team that's top heavy right now?
So let's be more explicit here.
Yeah.
So when we're saying play defense, play offense, let's describe what does playing defense mean?
Defense to me is anything that saves you time or money. So to me, it's like, okay, if I am able to understand where my cash is going, I can either save time or money by putting a person, process, or system in place there, or I can take the money that I have saved and play defense with and pour it into a channel that's working. So that way I can flip it from defense to offense. To me, offense is being able to use the dollars to get money in the door right away. It's the revenue driving activities. Right. So it's being able to produce revenue, or it's being able to protect the revenue that you're already making.
Yeah.
So those are the two,
would it be
offense,
like,
defense.
Because in my mind, if you're already doing it, right, it's not necessarily playing offense to continue doing it. So are we saying like we're doubling down, or we're talking about like adding marketing channels, or we're adding other markets? Like, what does it mean to play offense?
To me, that's taking the defensive actions of analyzing. Okay, what's working, and do we double down on this one, or and cut all the other things? There's a guy that I know out of New York where it's like TV was going gangbusters for him for like 3 months in a row, but then it just fell off a cliff. But he still kept pouring into it. I'm like, dude, like, how much we need to set a limit right now. How much do you want to keep pouring before you'll pull back? Because you've got these other two channels that are working really well, like direct mail is still going really strong for you and you're getting a good return. And these other, this other one, you're cold calling, whatever it was. So then he said, I'll do it one more month. I'm like, okay, we have to see X amount of return before this next month, or we're going to pull that channel and we're going to take that 10,000, 15, whatever it was a month and put it into this other channel. So for us, it's like, okay, what are you doing here, and can we put it into one that's already working and doubling down? Right. Or if you've already tapped it out, because it's the decreased returns, the more that you pour into it, do we need to open up a different channel or a different exit strategy that you have the same amount of deal flow, but now you're able to offer something different, pivot to the wholesale, wholetail, creative type structures.
So like when I think of defense as well, I kind of look at like, Warren Buffett. Like, I think he's sitting on way too much cash. Or not too much cash, but he's sitting on a lot of cash.
Yes, he is.
Right?
Is there too much?
Yeah. And I don't know what the number is, but it's something absurd.
Yeah.
And he's just waiting. Now, I think small business operators, we don't really have the luxury of just waiting and just opting out of the market. But, I mean, I don't know if that's playing defense or is that just buying time. I don't know what that is. What would you call that?
This is not apples to apples. You know what I'm saying? Like for him, he's seen the marketplace, and I think he just wants to take the opportunity. I think he's also stepping down, right? It's like he might be sunsetting. More of like, I've done it. Let me just pass this on. I've got more than enough. He probably doesn't even have to play offense, defense anymore.
No,
at that point. Okay, good example. Yesterday, a guy literally was on the phone with us for what we're doing with Simple CFO, and he. Crazy. This was one of the phone calls that I usually don't get. He had stacked cash. He's almost got 7 figures stacked right now because he's already implemented Profit First and he's got that system in place. So for him, he's waiting. But he's also still in the process of doing deals and buying the things that he wants to buy. He's still using other people's money or, investors and hard money, private money. On the real estate side, he's also got a marketing business too. But he said, I've got enough runway for this year where I could literally see how does the market go these next few years, and I can pivot along the way. So I love that. And I was surprised, like, okay, usually we see people's hair on fire and like you're coming in and you're good. Like, what do you want? He's like, well, I want forecasting, but I don't even have a business budget, or anything like that. He's like, I want to know my business more. I'm like, you have good principles. It sounds like you just want to be a better business owner, like the Keith Cunningham book, like being able to ask yourself better questions. So for him, it was more about, I'm stacking cash because I have good principles of money in place, but I'm going to use it in order to fund what I believe is the next opportunity for my business. So for him, that might be a little bit more on the scale versus like Warren Buffett. Like, I can't tell you what this guy has been investing since he was like 10,
Yeah.
and he has time on his side. He's down a different asset class. He's got great principles, and some of those same principles that he uses can be applied to small businesses like stacking cash and making sure that you're not always using your own money. Okay. Here's the thing I see lots of flippers do is a great deal comes along and I'm going to take that down no matter what. Even if I have to drain all my bank accounts, I've got Profit First set up and all the different accounts. I'm going to steal from all of them. We're going to take this deal down. Now might not be the time to do that.
No.
Like, who can you call? Who's in your network? A lot of people forget they have a network. Like if you're a part of a group or you've got some good people in your corner or you've got a coach that you have, it's like, what connections do they have? Ask a couple more questions before you just drain your resources dry. Had another call this last week where a guy was like, I'm sitting on a house that is in my personal name. It was the first one I ever did. But I've got a lot of equity, like 150, 200K in there. If I sold it today, he's like, what would you advise, to do? Or what would you do if you're in my situation? I'm like, no. Let me ask you some questions. Like, having the $150,000 in your bank, would that give you more peace of mind? Or do you like having a property there that you could potentially pull against or do a line of credit or like just having that in your portfolio and cash flow? Because he was cash flowing, he's got a tenant there and they're paying and on time. So what is more important to you? He's like, right now, I'd rather have the cash. Well, then I'm like, it's a no-brainer then.
Right.
So you also have to take it for what's your risk tolerance, but also be looking at the market and saying, okay, I can't do the same things I was doing and expect the same results every single time, especially if those flips start to sit there longer and longer on the market.
Yeah, and I think what you're talking about there is super important is the preferences.
Yeah.
Something that Paul Sparks and I were doing certainty talks for some time.
Yeah.
And the things we're talking about is like, we're all wired differently. Like we might think, we're very similar and that we have a lot in common, but we are at the end of the day wired differently.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that, your question, I love that you asked this question because like you give the accountant answer. I know you're not exactly an accountant, but you give the accountant answer.
Yeah.
What should I do? Well, it depends.
Right.
Like, and then you start asking clarifying questions. And then once we figure out the clarifying questions, we figure out what is important to you, what's stressful to you, what do you want, what makes you happy, and so on. It's like, oh, if that's the case, then this is the obvious answer. Like, for him, taking money out and putting cash in the bank, that is better. But for someone else, it's better to have as little debt as possible.
Exactly.
Everyone has different stressors, right? I have a nearly infinite risk tolerance, right? Let's max it all out. But for some other people, that would be incredibly stressful.
Yes. Or if you're married to someone who's not on the risk tolerance scale, like they're to 100 to the max, it's like you have to take that into consideration as well. Like this house that I bought personally, I did not run through the same filter that I would if I'm going to buy an investment property. Like, is this going to make my daughter and wife happy? Are they going to like it? Is it going to hurt us financially? No. So it checks all those boxes. Great. It might not be like, okay, I got this smoking hot deal, but it checks the boxes that I want to for what that house is supposed to fulfill versus like, okay, if you have that house like that guy, well, do you want the cash or do you want this? But being able to clarify, that's the real key.
Yeah. Does this check the box for the wife and the kids? Okay, that's more important than IRR.
Right. Exactly.
Return on equity.
Yep.
Right. Did I win? Did I get the homeowner to come down to my price on my terms? Right.
Exactly.
Different. Was it Rubik? What's the word I'm looking for? But it's different metric.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So then looking at things that you're seeing in common right now, right? Because you're saying like you got a lot of guys that have been playing defense pretty well.
Yeah.
So what are those guys? What do they have in common right now that you found that now they are ready to pounce in this evolving market?
Obstacle I hear from newer wholesalers is finding buyers for their deals. Because unless you've built a massive buyers list or have a huge dispo team, you might struggle to move your deals. So when we started working with InvestorLive, we've been able to reach new buyers and sell deals faster at higher prices. We can see buyers in our area, their contact information, and with the new AI capabilities, connect with the buyers most interested in our deals based on the algorithms. We can also see who's clicked on our deals, how many pictures they clicked on, and how long they spent looking at it, and finally, what actions they took after engaging with our deals. We are now connected with thousands of buyers in our markets, and we now know exactly where we are with each deal and what next steps to take. If this sounds like something that would resolve or help your dispo process, I highly encourage you, go to the website, put in Disruptors, for 10% off. So you can focus on locking up deals and less time worried, stressed, and frustrated about finding buyers.
So besides that, they have been playing defense and they have cash stacked. That gives them a lot of peace of mind, having the options to do something with their cash. So that's obviously a big one, is we have to have the reserves in place where if you have that, it's almost like you can taste that financial freedom. So where, okay, I really do have the freedom to make the decision that I want to at this time period in here. The other thing too is a lot of them, we take them down the road. If you know your finances, one of the next things you should do is get the right people and the right team in place to help you make sure you can handle these things or the things that you're not good at. Like in this marketplace right now, if you're not good at going out there and actually selling, do you have someone in your corner? Do you have a Steve, or do you have someone either training your team or training yourself to help you, or do you have someone that's their strong suit? Some of the operators we work with are more on the operation side, and they can let's put the things in order. And some of them are more on the sales side. Lots of people on the sales side. So it's like if we have to temper that, between the two, it's like, do you have the right people? Do you have the right process systems, the operations, a lot of stuff that Gary Harper does? Do you have those right people in the right seat right now? Because we also have to make sure that your overhead doesn't balloon during this time period as well, because it's very easy to go from a healthy margin, or a healthy percentage of payroll of 30, 40% to the 50, 60, 70, where it's getting very unhealthy. So they're also keeping their margins and the profit percentages at the right percentages as well too. So looking at that.
So talking about having the right team in place.
Yeah.
To effectively run profit first for real estate, who do you have to have on your team?
Honestly, my answer, if I wanted to sell a lot more, would be you need all these people. You need the CFO and you need the bookkeeper, the CPA, and I could sell you all these services. But no, honestly, if you just have yourself and a very good bookkeeper, if you aren't money oriented or you don't love the financial side, or you're spreadsheets, you're allergic to spreadsheets. If you're one of those people, then I totally understand that I would have at least a good bookkeeper in your corner to make sure that it can be run consistently, that you have something in place. Now, if you need accountability and more discipline, that's where a part-time CFO would come in place, more of a financial leader to put those key people and processes and systems in place, where a bookkeeper is just going to take what you've put in place and just help you run it, but not improve it or optimize it. They'll just run whatever you give to them. But that's the bare bones, I would say, especially if you're number phobic or something then making sure you have someone on your team. If it's a good bookkeeper, they understand profit first. If they don't understand profit first, run, or if they don't like it, this is something that's supposed to help you, as the owner. So that's the bare bones, honestly.
One thing that kills me is accountants that are opposed to profit first.
Yes, I hear that. I just heard that this last week too again. I'm like, what the heck?
I don't get it. Doesn't make sense to me.
Well, they see it as more work for them. But it's this is for the owner and for them to feel good.
Clients.
And exactly, you understand that this will help them and help them ultimately have better conversations with you too, as their accountant. So it's
very, very unfortunate. And so really then you're talking about the team doesn't need to be really complicated. And then you say number phobic. I would disagree. It's not number phobic.
Yeah.
It's really detail phobic.
Detail phobic. There you go.
Right. Because they like the numbers.
Yeah.
They like it when the bank account is growing. Right. They enjoy that part.
Yeah.
They enjoy going in there and seeing multiple commas.
Yes.
Right. They love that part. So they love the number part. It's all the little things that have to happen.
Categorization and reconciliation and QuickBooks Online, those types of words to actually get the full picture.
Exactly.
Being able to also trace back to the point of origin of what really is at fault here. Because if you can do that from beginning to end, if you got a good CRM that's tracking your leads from when you first touch them, and then you've got a good financial software, which is more like your money CRM, then you can track that dollar literally from day one till you actually close it. Then you can look at the details to be one of the best things I heard from a mentor a long time ago was don't just analyze when you fail, and everyone analyzes what went wrong and how can we do better. But look at your success patterns too. What has made you successful? Or is there a certain clientele, or if you're a flipper or wholesaler, do you lean into what you're good at, and how do you keep being good at it, and how do you keep getting those deals, and is there something along that detail line that you're doing that someone else isn't, or that's proprietary to you, or like that is specific to your process, and looking for those patterns inside of it as well. But if you're detail phobic, then you can't always find the right question to ask.
Well, because it's not about detail phobic, because like even, I remember years and years and years ago, Kristen Stampini, I don't know, have you met her? She worked with Sharper as well.
Maybe.
But she was my coach before I became
What was her
a wholesaler.
name?
Kristen Stampini.
Yes, yeah.
So before I was...
Just saw her a few weeks ago.
Yeah, so before I got into wholesale, I was really, heavy on the realtor side.
Yeah.
And man, she used to kick my butt all the time. It's just like, why don't you know your KPIs? Why don't you know your KPIs? Right? It's like, here's a book, Traction. You need to read this book.
Nice.
And again, this is like 2015, 2014.
Yeah.
So I read it or really listened to it. I was like, man, I think I read it. It's like, man, that's a pretty good book. Did absolutely nothing with it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
It's a heavy book.
Yeah, I got that book. You got the 4 disciplines of execution. You got the advantage.
Yep.
You got all these books that all say the same thing, KPIs.
Yeah.
I was like, those are great in theory,
Right.
right? But as business owners, most business owners don't take the time to actually compile the KPIs, which they shouldn't, but they probably should start at the very beginning.
Yeah.
But they shouldn't like be doing it on a day-to-day basis. And I think it's the same, phobia is not the right word, but like the resistance to it.
The resistance, yeah.
Right?
Yep.
It's that, to take the time to go in the CRM and like actually download the metrics and do all those other things, right? Like if you imagine like going to like analyze all your PPC leads, right? And you went through, goes like, how many leads did we get? How many leads did we talk to? Like for an actual business owner to do that, they wouldn't do it. Well, it's the same thing with bookkeeping. It's compiling data that sucks. We don't mind looking at data.
Right.
We don't mind someone saying like, hey, the trends are looking like this. How do we fix it? We'll be all over that.
Right.
Can't wait to fix problems.
Yeah.
But to actually compile the data to get the problems,
That's a different story.
it's a different story.
Which also, if you present it to them though, and like, okay, a $10 per hour task might be doing the data entry in QuickBooks, but it's like $1,000 per hour task to analyze that data. So we have to get something in line up here.
Right.
So if you're a one-man show, it might be worth compiling some data just so you can analyze something, so that way you can be doing a $1,000 per hour task. Like obviously you still need to make offers, you still need to go out there and do the revenue, the front-facing revenue type stuff. But then if you can also turn the defense into offense by analyzing it and doing a higher dollar per hour task, it makes the $10, the little stuff, like not as like nitpicky or resistant if you can put the end goal is I can analyze data, and that's a much higher dollar per hour task.
Right. Now, I want to get your opinion on this. Okay. So I personally hate QuickBooks and Intuit. Hate them with a passion.
Okay.
Not the bookkeeping component. That part I'm just allergic. No, hate the company.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're always adding changes that don't help me and refuse to make the changes that would
help you. Yeah.
Right? Absolutely hate them. So I'm excited. Again, this is probably evil, right? I'm excited for when they go out of business, when AI, you can just upload bank statements.
Yeah.
And AI just does all that work. And we can just get rid of QuickBooks. What is your perspective on that?
Okay, first of all, I am also in the same bucket of I do hate QuickBooks. I hate it for the same reasons though. Like I know I own a fractional CFO company, but like it's all the CFOs and the bookkeepers and they all love that stuff. Like me, I love being able to tell you what it provides for you and like the actual return that it gets you. But I only go into our QuickBooks account like every other week when we do our financial meetings. We have the financial level 10, from EOS and all that stuff. So that way we go into that. But I am 100% on board with let's get everything that can be done without a human component to it to be uploaded in AI. Like I don't mind that because then we get to the fun stuff. Like what we do as fractional CFOs and being able to analyze that stuff and be able to strategize and to be able to say, what does this really get us to? And like, what do these numbers mean? Plus, if you're at that level and you're uploading through AI and you still need to categorize it, you're still going to need someone there to do that part, like to make sure, especially in the property.
It. Yeah,
exactly.
You'll be safe, right?
But that's where.
But the bookkeepers.
I don't care. Yeah, I think they'll still need someone even on the account side to like help them categorize and that type of stuff unless they can just unless the real estate investing world or someone in the AI world makes it super easy for them to remember every time that if a certain property is attached to this expense or income, like to attach that there, that's where it's like, is the real estate world always going to be behind? Like it feels like when you still go to a closing or some of these other things where it feels like it's behind some of these other industries.
Why don't I'm all industries?
I'm right. Well, now that I've been out there and I've seen other things, I'm like, wow, they're able to just do this all virtually. And like some of this stuff where they are just all online, or some using blockchain stuff, this type of stuff where, some real estate offices, it's still. I did it the other day. Signed 70 pieces of paper. I'm like, really, we haven't gotten better and like more efficient than me sitting down and doing this like for 70 times over and over and over again.
You're fighting a very large industry.
Exactly. But that's where I think for the bookkeeping and everything, until they go out of business or until there's someone that get like the AI that is able to put it up, it's still going to be there for a while. But I'm with you. Like
That's
my opinion is,
I mean, the fact that I still have to go through and like Chevron, right? And it's like, okay, it's under $5. It's probably not gas.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
It's probably like some sort of food item.
Like a drink or whatever.
Right? If it's over $20, okay, it's probably gas.
Yeah.
Right? The fact that I still have to go in there and like it doesn't know.
Right.
It can't take a stab, right? Or like a Chevron, and I use the Teslas, I don't do this anymore, right? But I remember back in the day, it's like everything Chevron in Phoenix or Arizona is probably gas.
Yeah.
But Chevron in Florida should probably be travel.
Right. Exactly. Depending on where you live. Like, it's almost like, can you pre-program AI with some of this stuff in there? And honestly, some of these programs you can. Like, QuickBooks has some of those rule functions that you could go in there,
rules,
but it doesn't have like, okay, well, if it's under the $5, put this and that. Like, that would make it a lot easier. The thing that I'm going to wonder is like, can AI become smart enough to do an owner finance transaction where like one piece of income comes in and it goes to 5 different, and like some of it goes on the income statement, some of it goes on the balance sheet, and it's like, if it could go there, then yes, then QuickBooks will be out of
We're pretty far away
business.
from that, but I don't think, I don't know. I don't know if we need QuickBooks for that. Who knows?
Right.
Right. But like I said, Intuit, QuickBooks, if you guys are listening, I hate you guys. Yeah. There's definitely, it's not a love-hate relationship. We just hate them.
We just hate it. Yeah. That's great.
Okay. So, but going back to like trends you're seeing for the successful ones, like you got, again, your clients, the ones that have been able to build up the defenses, been able to build up the cash reserves.
Yeah.
What habits are they demonstrating consistently where they're today able to go on offense because they've been playing defense so well?
It is their habits. It's the habits of asking the questions before they make the move. They have the structure in place, like what we were talking about with Traction or EOS, where it is a system to make decisions versus the thing that makes a solopreneur so successful is they can pivot on a dime, make decisions on the fly, like this isn't working, let's move. But as you grow, those same things become the chaos dragon for you. Like it just comes in and rampages through the company. Yeah. So you need a set of controls in place. Otherwise, you just upend everything. Now, I'm not saying the decisions you make in those like meetings can't upend everything and you say, hey, this isn't working, we have to go to this other thing. But you have a system for it versus, okay, this was great. I was just at an event and the guy that was up there speaking, he's like, my team used to call the week after this mastermind the worst week of the entire year because he would come back and have 15 different ideas and want to implement everything. Mm-hmm. So that's a very common case of solopreneur mentality in a business owner environment where now you have people and you have systems and you have things in place. So they're not doing that. They're not making the rash things just by themselves. They're also getting their team input and making sure the buy-in's there. Because if you have built a good culture and you have good team members, one of the most expensive items is turnover, whether it's a property that you're buying and holding or whether it's, a tenant or whether it's an actual team member on your team. Turnover is going to kill you. So if you come back and just pulling the rug out from them each and every time, they're not doing those types of things. There's another great book, No Man's Land, that's out there that's incredible as well too. And it's like you have to, even in the face of the storm, still provide the motivation, but you can't be yanking the rug out from them, like during the downtimes or during the things in the economy. You have to keep that face that saying, here's what we're going to do, but we're going to do it together and we're going to make sure that we're all rowing the same direction. So I would say they have good, like you said, it literally is their habits that they have now that are more business owner oriented versus the solopreneur, my hair's on fire, like I need to pull the plug, like here we go again.
I mean, I remember going to multiple events and coming back like, hey, we're going to do all these things. We're going to do A, B, C, D, and E, right? Looking back on all those ones where I got all massive resistance, I ended up being right most of the times. The problem was I failed to correctly allocate resources.
Yep.
Right? So like when we went and like, hey, we're going to do this now. So for example, I remember coming back from a Craig Proctor conference. Like, all right, we're using commission sync now, right? It's going to be $1,500 a month, but we're not going to get a whole bunch of buyer leads, right? And we did all that. And there's a lot of resistance to it, but it was the right call at the time. The problem I have as a business owner is that when I say, let's do this, and I bring everyone with me, with all the other things that were working.
Stopped working.
Yeah. Right? And so I gave my company, all my team, bunch of whiplash. It was the right decision conditioned upon having the right resources.
Yeah.
I was trying to do major moves with an insufficient and inadequately sized organization.
Yeah. And that will hurt you whether it's a big, it's a up market, down market, whatever, because that's what we went through in the early real estate days. That when I was first getting into it in 2012, 13, 14, like the market was down, but it was on its way back up in some areas, and like you could get, dirt cheap deals everywhere. But we grew so much, we were so top heavy that we would fix a problem, but then we would just allocate all the resources for every department was doing all the different exit strategies, and we were doing like 7 major exit strategies. So we were all spread too thin, doing lots of deals, and we had to just keep hiring to keep filling in the gaps. So our resource allocation. So that's a big one. As you grow, it's not just because you're going to grow yourself out of business because you're doing more deals. It's because of that resource allocation, but also being able to take these ideas that you get and say, what do I also need to make sure keeps working if I'm going to add on to it? Now, a lot of business owners love to add on and say, here's what we're going to do, but they forget to say, what am I going to also take away if I do this? Like you also have to have the give and take.
Yeah, that's what we have in
relationship.
We use Sharper for our quarterly strategy meetings.
Highly recommend that.
And every time, right, shout out to Gary and Susan Harper, every time we do it, it's like, hey, here's what I want to add. And their answer is, great, what are you taking off?
Nice.
All right, here's what I want to do. Great, what are we stopping?
Yep.
And it's a question, going back to Keith Cunningham, we got to figure out, like, what's the downside?
Yeah.
What am I not seeing? What am I not thinking about? What am I not concerned about? But, again, just the financial habits, I think that's one of the keys here, right? Because we're going to talk about, like, going from 7-figure years to 7-figure months. What are the financial habits that your clients are practicing on a regular basis, on regular rhythms to stack cash?
Yeah. I mean, our big one is the system of profit first. It's literally, we fall to the level of our systems, right? And a lot of people just don't have a good system for their cash. That's why we recommend profit first. I mean, I've obviously bit that bullet hard. I have this book out here. It's almost been 4 years now, I think, that it's been out. So that's where making sure you have a system. When a dollar comes in, you direct the dollar. So you tell it like, hey, we need to make sure that we're profitable, we are healthy, and we're still building the business after we're profitable and healthy, not vice versa, profit last, like the parody book that I'm going to write. So it's like, this is where we have to make sure we have that profit. We're stacking it. And with profit first, it's bank accounts, it's an envelope system. So you have a reserve vault, you have profit. We make sure that we're getting to that 3 to 6 month mark as soon as possible. Like when they first come on board, that's one of our first goals with the client is, can we stack cash to give you 3 to 6 months of reserves as fast as humanly possible? Because a lot of the stress that you're feeling now is because you just don't have the commas in your bank account.
Yeah.
Like you start to have those, you'll see it. That also, when you start to see the cash stacking, that does flip the switch of, okay, like let me lean into this habit harder. So I would say having a good habit for your cash is first. That also means if you're a solopreneur, you can start that with one deal a year, one deal a month, one deal a day. Like that's where you can start good cash habits on your own, and you don't need QuickBooks. You don't need to be this financial wizard or guru or anything, and you can start that. That would be a big one. I would say the other thing too is they have meeting rhythms of looking at the finances, the trends, like you said, like going back and saying, okay, where have we been? Where are we now? Let's also forecast and like, how accurate do we think this is? And if this deal does get pushed back, what do we need to change, or what does that mean for our cash flow, or what does that mean for our resource allocation to make sure that if this deal does get pushed back that we don't like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen here? So it's being able to meet on a regular basis to know what has happened and what we're going to change and pivot to, And it is having a good system like Profit First in place to stack the cash so you can make those pivots and changes as you need to.
What are we talking about in those regular meeting rhythms?
So regular meeting rhythms, we focus on 3 main numbers: what you make, spend, and keep. Usually that's the first order of business. Like, are you having any make issues? Like, is it a revenue issue? Do you have a slow month or slow quarter or slow half a year? Like, we need to make sure we get revenue back. So then we look at where have you spent the money and where are your returns, and looking at the KPIs. So that's a big thing because a lot of people usually have that issue. Or is it a spend issue? Like, where we're spending, is it either not returning or have we bloated? Like, do we have any bloat in the business? Because $1 saved is $1 to your pocket. That's what a lot of people don't realize, that if you make more money, that's great, but usually you're getting a percentage of what you make. But if if there's something you can cut, that goes right to your bottom line. So it's like, do we have any bloat? So we're looking at that. And then keeping. Are you keeping what you want to? Are you on track for the goals that we've set? One of our first calls we have is called the battle plan call, because we want to set a battle plan. Like, we're on the war path. Like, we have to make sure that you build your business. Like Jimmy Vreeland says, like, you've got your war chest and your battleship out there. Like, I want to make sure you have this in place. So what are our first targets for reserves, for making sure you're paying yourself? And so that's what we're reviewing as well, to keep, are you keeping what you want to in that framework? The specific tabs, like if we go into it, like that you want to go is, okay, what's the forecast, actuals versus budget? What did we say we were going to do versus what we actually did? Did we actually hit those numbers? And if we did we take that cash that we said we were going to make and put it into the actual places we said we were going to? So it's also holding the accountable to, this is what the business owner says financial freedom is, and let's making sure the money lines up with what they really want.
Are they doing what they actually said they were going to?
Exactly.
What they said they were going to do.
What they said they wanted, because once they see it, then they can also change too. This is why I love this system. We've seen clients, when they start to stack cash, their goals have changed. They've either said, I like this a lot and I like stacking cash, and I thought I was going to scale up right now, but I want to stack cash for a few more months and not put the pedal to the metal, and be able to maybe go from 3 to 6 months to 6 to 12 months of reserves and stack more, and be able to maybe do less deals but be more profitable. But they didn't even have that option until they knew their numbers and had the clarity and had some cash stacked to be able to take a breather. A lot of people can't even take a breather to be able to say, what do I really want to do? Because I don't have any option. Like you had mentioned, the difference between Warren Buffett and the small business entrepreneur is Warren Buffett can sit there for about 1 billion years, right? And not run out of money if he just sat on it forever.
He's got a lot more options.
He's got a lot more options and a lot more time that he can buy versus the entrepreneur that's just living deal to deal.
Yeah. That's a great point. And then we got something you're giving away, a cheat sheet of sorts.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
The Profit First cheat sheet. Like, I give away my Profit First book at the same link, and I think I've done that for a while. But we put together a cheat sheet. It's a 1-pager, because I know entrepreneurs, this is like the manual. This is the detailed guide if you have the book. But if you just want an overview, like I said, you can start to implement this stuff right away to start building the habits. I'm not trying to get you to do some system so we could come in there and implement and all that. This is where I've seen people be able to have good habits with their money, and you can do it yourself. So that's what the cheat sheet is. It's literally 1, 2, 3. These are the first steps, how to open what is Profit First? How do I open the accounts? Like, what do I do with the system? Where do I go? What banks, are for Profit First, and that type of thing. So that's what we're giving away as part of that. And the targets is a big thing on that sheet as well too, that we give out, is depending on the size of your business, where should you be cash-wise in these different accounts? Like, there's a profit account, and there's the OPEX and that type of thing, taxes. So percentage-wise, what does a healthy company do? So you can say, how close am I to these targets, to give you kind of a bench line for yourself to be able to see. So that's where it is at. Do you want me to give the link of where that is?
What's the link?
simplecfo.com/red, R-E-D.
Yep. And Joe Terrio was just on the show.
Joe Terrio was just on. Yes, that was the best. I'm like, Joe must have just spoken, because we're getting some people in the door and they're mentioning him. And sure enough, I saw him on there. He's one of the ones, hopefully it's okay to say, because he lets us say anything and check the little boxes, but he's one of the ones where from 7-figure years to 7-figure months. Yeah. And a lot of it he attributes to, when we've gotten on the phone, is being able to actually understand the numbers at a deep level and to make those resource allocations, to be able to say, where have I been? Where am I now? Where do I need to go? Where do I need to be going, in order to get to where I really want to as a business owner? And he honestly too has grown a lot in like the Keith Cunningham aspect, asking better questions, the systems that he has in place, like being able to get the buy-in with the team. And he has a great team that he has around him as well too, that's really helping him, and they're all together. He just took them on a huge trip that like, because like they set goals together. So it's a combination of, once you know your numbers and you're on the right track, it opens up the doors to how can I also, not just for myself and like the profit first for me, it's also for the team. Like, how can I reward them and the people that have been on this journey? Once you do that, that unlocks a whole new level of being able to turn those A players into like A+ players that want to die on the hill for you to say, okay, we're having a down month, and they're thinking, what can we cut? What can we do? Like, what can we pour into? Like, what's working? Where they're on your side and they're treating it like their baby as well too.
Well, it certainly helped that on the show, he talked about how he's had $1 million in the bank account.
Yes.
And he attributes a good amount of that to your support.
Yeah.
That probably helped.
That probably helped. And honestly, it's because of the principles and starting with simple, like profit first stuff, where years ago, that's not where he was. Like, this is not Joe, like, okay, he was just a success overnight. It took those disciplines and habits and stacking them. And honestly, he attributes it to, it's not even me. He works with Christina, one of our top CFOs on the team. She's actually our COO of Simple CFO. Like, she's incredible on the team. And she's been a great accountability partner for Joe to be able to say, are you sure you want to make this decision? Like, you know, like, let's run this scenario. And if you go down this rabbit hole, this is what it will mean. And being able to just show on paper before he makes the decision, so we can have a Keith conversation, you know, Keith Cunningham conversation. This is the worst case scenario. Are you willing to live with this? Or if you do this, like, this mitigates some of the risk and you still have the same reward. So it's being able to have that crystal ball in your corner, but accountability partner too.
And then a lot of what you talked about in the last few minutes, it sounds like a fractional CFO is a little bit of like involved with the marketing side and involved with the sales side, right? You're talking about the KPIs, you know, the cash conversion cycle. Yeah. You're talking about, is this dollar you're putting into this marketing channel making more dollars? Sounds like you're kind of like wearing multiple hats. I know it says strategic CFO or a fractional CFO, right? Both of those. Sounds like you're pretty involved with the marketing and sales as well.
It's because they touch the numbers directly. We have to see, like, in order to see the financials and get a picture as a fractional CFO, like if you're a bookkeeper, you're just entering the data, it comes in. I don't need to worry about any of that stuff. If you're a CFO, that is, you have to think of this, a business owner, if they're not a solopreneur anymore, they are more like a CEO. You need to start surrounding yourself with leaders and thinkers and not just doers. So that's what a CFO should be, is if you don't have a COO, if you don't have some of those other key leaders, we have to be looking upstream because it affects the downstream numbers of like what hits your bank account. So that's where for a lot of our clients, we have to build that marketing KPI sheet because they have nothing. Some of the CRMs have it for them and that's great, but like if they don't have it, we have to see what's happening upstream so we can make sure it's affecting them positively.
Do you find yourself fighting with the marketing department and the sales directors?
Not a ton, no, because usually it's the buy-in with the owner, and it's more of we want to be on your side and we want you to be able to pour money into it and really have a good return. We just want you to make the decision from data and not your gut feeling anymore. Yeah. Like you can get, honestly, I've seen a ton of people get to 7 figures on their gut. You know, like just the grit, the determination, and like that sounds good, let's do it. But then past 7 figures, if you have a sales director and if you have a marketing, you know, like manager, whatever, then you have to make sure you're not just doing it from gut and from the actual data. So it's just showing them this is what the data says and this is what we're seeing. This is just, we want to make sure that we're all on the same page before you make this decision, because we are not going to make the decision for the owner. We're just going to present this is what the numbers say. It's like the Knights of the Round Table. We all have to be giving the owner the advice, but still the owner wears the crown. So it's like making sure they still feel empowered to make that, but now they're more empowered because they actually have numbers that don't just connect up front. Because a lot of marketing agencies or people or like the managers and leaders, they usually have the numbers, but they don't always connect it to the, you know, the QuickBooks side or like the actual ending dollar amount. So that's where we're just making sure not only what is your cost per and everything, but like what are you actually making in it? What are those returns and what, you know, are the different channels if you don't already have that laid out from your marketing director.
And then or what question was I going to ask? Oh, so we're going to talk about, how to go from 7-figure years to 7-figure months. But before we do that,
Yeah.
Something I've heard from a lot of entrepreneurs, and I've said as well, is like, I feel like I'm making a lot of money, but I don't know where it is.
Yeah.
Right. So let's talk about why that's happening, and then we'll go into the main
For sure.
main headline for the show. So when someone comes to you, is like, David, I know I'm making a lot of money, but I don't know where it is.
Yeah.
What are some telltale signs or things that are happening that are causing that specific feeling to happen?
Yeah. I asked them 3 questions. Do you have a good set of books?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a good system for your cash? Do you have a good way? Do you have a budget or forecasting tool? Like, do you know your numbers? Like, do you have basic profit and loss balance sheet? If you do, can you pull them up, or can you understand what they're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Do you also have a good system for cash management and knowing where your cash is going? Because that's usually one of the key things that they could have no matter what, even if they don't have this piece over here, if they don't have the budget and all that. So those are usually the 3 things I'm asking to see. Do you have these things in place? If you do, okay, well then we have to go a little bit deeper, is because now your habits are probably not serving you. What you're doing with the money and those systems is probably not putting you in the position you want to be. You're probably the flipper that a deal comes along and you don't care about the systems you have in place. I'm just going to jump on it no matter what.
Right.
So you don't have that. A good friend of ours, it's like making money is a skill set, keeping it is a discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we got to build that financial discipline muscle for them and help them and kind of be their coach, a financial coach at that point,
Right.
just like a financial, like a trainer, like at the gym, where you're going to get a lot better results with a trainer than you are just going out there. And if you have terrible form, if you don't know what you're doing, you're throwing the dumbbells across the thing at Planet Fitness and they're yelling at you, just that's where I'm like, what are you doing with your finances? This is where, if they have those 3 things, we call it the financial foundation. You need a good set of books, you need a good cash management system, and you need a good dashboard to be able to see my past numbers, my present and future numbers to make decisions from. So that's usually what I'm asking. Do you have some just basic things in place, like upright? Can you pull up a profit and loss? And do you have a cash system?
If they picked up your book, would they learn about all this?
They would learn about mainly the cash system. And I talk a little bit about the bookkeeping side in there, or like the numbers system. Another book I highly recommend for entrepreneurs, it's called Accounting for the Number Phobic, which I even reference that in here. That teaches you as an entrepreneur how to, the P&L and the balance sheet side, how to understand that. If you want to make decisions from those, from those reports or whatever, like you could pick up that book and it's going to translate it into business owner speak. And that's where, if you pick up this book, and I would say those 2 for some of the foundational pieces, like this will get you on the cash started, the cash management piece, and that's really where a lot of people have peace of mind once they actually know they have the cash and they can pull up their bank account, like you said so aptly, see the commas in the bank account.
So what's the name of your book?
Profit First for Real Estate Investing. So that's where I took Mike McCallotz's original book, Profit First, reached out to him about a year into Simple CFO and what we're doing, and got that book written about 3.5, 4 years ago now.
Yeah. He's a great guy.
He is. I was just texting him yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, between that one, Pumpkin
Plan. Yeah.
Clockwork.
Fix This Next is a huge one that I love. Have you read that one?
I haven't picked up that one.
Oh, man. There's a whole can of worms there. The business hierarchy of needs. You're going to love this. Sales, profit, order. Always in that position. You have to have sales and revenue. A lot of people skip sales and go up to order, like they reinvest everything into people and systems, but they don't have any profit. They're not doing it from profit. They're just doing it all from revenue, and that's why they don't have a bottom line and can't pay themselves.
Yeah.
So it's like that's the business hierarchy of needs, just like Maslow's hierarchy. He does it for a business inside that book. It's an incredible book. Yeah, honestly, for what you're doing too, he goes into like if your sales are struggling, here's what to do and why you should fix that first if it's a revenue issue, because that's the foundation
so that's the book
of it.
I should be giving everybody.
Yeah, exactly, because you have to fix sales first.
Yeah.
Then you have to have the profit. Profit is next because people skip that step, and then you're investing in the order that you're creating the chaos from all the new sales and all the profit that you're making. And if you're stacking that cash, what do you do with it? Well. Yeah. You invested into the order of the business.
All right. So anyone that's ever given me the objections, like, well, I got to wait for this or wait for that. It's like, all right, just send them that book.
Right. Exactly. Say, well, no, if you're hurting here, this is what you're supposed to fix next.
Mike McCallowitz says.
Yes. Mike McCallowitz says you should fix your sales next. So if that's what's broken.
All right. There you go. All right. So then Going back to what I talked about the title of the show, right?
Yeah.
So how to go from 7-figure years to 7-figure months.
Yeah.
So
I would follow the Joe Terrio model.
yeah,
Literally from when we first were working with him and not even having 7-figure years at that point, to where starting with the cash management system, he didn't, I believe he's one of the ones, he didn't even fully implement it at first. Like Christina had to show him on paper for a couple months. Like if we were to do this, if we were to split out all the money and here's what it would look like, and then slowly getting them into, okay, that makes sense.
so help them see the vision first.
Help them see the vision. But the first thing I would say is cash management. Like you have to have the cash under control because if you are making the sales, we have to have profit and a buffer, that margin. You have to, and I love that I'm saying this. It's like you started a for-profit business. We have to think about the profit of the business and the health of it. But a lot of us put it last because we're just grinding every deal. It's the hustle. It's the grind mode where hustle should be a season, not a lifestyle. Another thing from a good coach and mentor, Tom Kroll. That's where making sure first cash management, I would say. Then from there is if you are able to then reinvest that profitability into the order of the business, the systems, the scaling, that type of thing, you're going to love this too. Because in Fix This Next with sales, profit, order, you would reinvest into order. Well, if you reinvest more order, you have to go back down to sales. It's just a cycle that keeps going over and over until you've tapped out as a leader, basically.
Yeah.
And then you could focus on the legacy and impact, which I think that's the two next runs, of his pyramid on there that he gives in that book. But number one, cash flow management and knowing where every dollar is going. That's also having the good systems in place like the books and the numbers and having the forecasting and having the tools. But honestly, you start with, if a dollar comes in, do I have the discipline not to touch it or not to reinvest every dollar because I'm throwing money out the door and hoping that it comes back. Yeah. So that's where I would start. Then in order to get to, that's honestly the way to get to a 7-figure year, where you're not just making 7 figures, but you're keeping 7 figures. You could do a lot of that with just the cash management piece. If you want to go to 7-figure months, you're going to have more data to analyze. Those details, that's where you actually get to dig into, like, is this really a sales issue? Well, then I need to hire the best. I need to hire someone that's going to come in to fix this area right away so that way I can get my sales to increase. Because if I increase here, I know the increase over here will allow me to hire this person over here in order to create the bigger machine. So it's being able to have dialed in numbers that will get you to from the 7-figure year of like knowing where your cash is going and really having a good system for the cash to being able to say, what do I need to reinvest in? What do I need to make sure that we are pouring the money into? Is it the people? Is it time for a process, a system? Is it time for a mastermind? And I need to surround myself with a network and need to be exposed, or like some of these places that you can go and find private lenders and like some of those places out there like where they do cruises with private lenders, being able to look at what's the next step that I need to take. But honestly, like Joe, like being able to look at any number to say, okay, what do I need to do this month in order to hit $1 million? How many deals does that take? What does the team look like at that level? What could I do with that? And the margin as well too. If I do $1 million month, does that mean I make zero, or does that mean I make 20, 30, 40%? And like how do we get there? Well, you're gonna have to have numbers, books, and some type of software system like a dashboard to be able to see that.
So what I'm hearing is a few different things. First one, obviously, the things we talked about, throughout the show.
Yeah.
Right. The
cash flow management,
cash system for cash, and then there's a lot about discipline, about metrics here. But what I'm hearing a lot of really is discipline and restraint. It's what I'm hearing mostly, right? It's that you actually have to be not curious about your numbers, which I think most people, unfortunately, are not.
Right.
You got to be like obsessed over your numbers.
Fanatical. A little bit.
Yeah, you have to be a fanatic, right? You have to have that Tom Kroll enthusiasm.
Yes. Bam.
About your finances.
Yep. Yes, indeed.
Is that more or less what you're saying here?
I would say that it's not even that you have to be excited about the finances, because obviously if you're doing those types of months, it is exciting, but it's more fanatical about tracking everything and knowing what that number represents to get to where you want to go. Does that make sense? It's more about how to... Yeah.
Let's be more explicit. Let's just dive into what does that mean?
So that means that if I want to hire this person in order to take over the acquisitions department because I'm still running it as the owner. What does that mean behind the scenes? Like, how many contracts would I need in a monthly basis, like to be able to have enough profit to be able to also pay a sales manager or someone in that seat to run the acquisitions for me or to be there instead of me. And if I know my close rate, and if I know that they're not going to close as much as me, like knowing their close rate, and how does that affect the dollars that actually come in? If I'm closing at 50, 60, 70%, they close at 20 to 50%, like, okay, that also means we need to bump up deals by X amount in order to get there. So it's like for hiring, being able to look at the numbers that matter for hiring to be able to see how many deals does that translate into on the back end. Like that's where if you have cash management and if you have percentages, it's going to be easier to get to that number if you follow the linear track that I'm trying to lay down. Know your cash in dollars and percentages of where your cash is going. Then if you can dig into the tinier numbers, like this is how many deals I need to be able to do in order to hire this person, then you can say that means that this many deals comes in, the percent that I put into the operational expense bucket to be able to pay for this manager, this is how much we need. Like before it was only $30,000, but with them we're going to need $45,200, like in order to cover their salary, and to be able to keep the business going just like it is right now, and to keep the margins that we have. So does that make like diving into a specific?
For example, I want to hire a sales manager.
Yeah.
And let's say I'll pay him $60,000 base plus some sort of override on commissions. So I'm going to spend $60,000 here. I need to know X number of dollars coming back. Right, so $5,000 a month. How much should I, as an owner, demand as far as a return on dollars? I hire a guy, $5,000 a month. How much more should I be bringing in? I think is a question that you're asking, and there probably is some sort of answer behind that as well.
Correct, and I would say too, if you're paying them 60, and like, if your commissions, obviously it's going to be more than that. But remember, if you're doing 60 and they're on your team and it's W-2, it's more than 60. Like it's really more like 70 or 75, like that you're really paying them. So it's like divide that by 12, and that's how much on a monthly basis you need to be bringing in. But honestly, they need to be bringing in anywhere from, like, what is it, the 3 to 5X? Like it's almost like a marketing channel. Like this person should be bringing in, that 3 to 5X, because I don't like all overhead being more than 30 to 40% of total revenue. That's where you get very out of control very quickly. You get the bloat. That's one of the things that takes the business down the quickest, is if your payroll starts to get above that 40% number. So they need to be doing at least, that 3X at least to be, on the team.
Okay.
That's harder for admins though. You have to look at admins differently, or bookkeepers or people like that. It's how much time do they save you, the owner, or a revenue producer that is able to now do more revenue production because you've taken something off their plate. Like if you have a sales manager or an acquisitions person, but you hire a lead manager to make sure that the leads are coming in and they're good, and you're sending the closer out on the appointment and they can go to more because you've hired that lead manager. Well, okay, how many more deals can they do because you hired this person? Because it should, inversely increase.
And that's where things get kind of funky.
Yes, that's where you need to know the back end, because then you can actually analyze all of that data to be able to see, okay, if we can split this out, and this is where AI would be really nice if we could get all of it just done in AI versus a bookkeeper. But if you can track your back end money like you do the leads that come into your CRM, that's where you can really track, okay, a lead manager touched this property from this point, and then how many closes did we get from that lead, from when that lead manager touched it? And if you have a QuickBooks type system, they have tags and stuff in there just like a CRM. So you can tag that from the very beginning when you spent the dollars. It came in from this marketing channel. This property got, under contract if it's a flip or whatever it might be, or you assigned it. Then it could be tagged to that lead manager as well as the salesperson that closed, so you can track how many more deals did he do that are attached to that lead manager.
So there's an exercise. Austin McCurdy's done this a whole bunch of times with us.
Oh,
right.
Yeah, he's a numbers guy.
Yeah, he is. Right. Okay. So the lead came in. What are all the different touch points?
Yeah.
From when, not even when the lead came in. That's where I like to measure as a salesperson. Marketing. When a dollar went out.
When a dollar went out. Yep.
Right. Let's talk about the journey of the lead all the way through until it closes. And there are a good number of business owners that don't even know that journey.
Yeah.
You're talking about a different journey. When the dollar goes out, how does the dollar flow
Yep.
through your company?
Exactly.
Right. So we need to have clear visibility, transparency, and intentionality, what the dollar is doing as it's flowing through the organization. And for every seat it touches in a company, it needs to 3 to 5x. When you put $1 into a seat, it needs to 3 to 5x, because if it's not, then you face bloat
Yep.
in payroll. And when you have bloat in payroll, this is the beginning of the end if it's not fixed.
Exactly.
We don't have to name any names. How many businesses have you seen like either go under or face massive, what's the word I'm looking for? Challenges
Yeah.
from bloated payroll? I've got some big news, and you'll want to hear all of this because I'm going to give you the best bonus ever at the end of this video. You all know that I've been providing sales training for 6 years now, and I've had the opportunity to train hundreds of the best teams in the country and thousands of individuals as well. And they've all had wild success along the way, some of which you've even seen on this podcast. You also know Ian Ross, who has been coaching alongside me now for over 2 years. He's the biggest sales geek ever, and he's been training business owners and individual contributors ever since he started working here. He even runs the Close More Sales podcast. But we had a problem. There was a lot of confusion. What is it exactly that we sell here? Is it Disruptors training? Is it Steve Trang training? Or is it Close More Sales training? It's none of those. It is objection-proof selling. Ian runs objection-proof selling for business owners and individuals. I run objection-proof selling for teams where I coach their entire team. And to celebrate the rebrand, I want to give you something that I never would have thought been possible until recently. We've been training this AI bot for over a year now to score all of our sales calls internally. Every call we run, we have the bot review the call to Ian and mine exact standards for sales. We run every one of our team members' calls through the same exact AI bot. And now we're giving it to you for free. This bot will review your calls based on dozens and dozens of metrics. It will tell you what you did well, what you can do better, again, by the standards of the objection-proof selling formula. And if you want to use our bot for free, just head over to our website, objectionproof.ai. Again, objectionproof.ai. I want to emphasize here, you're getting access to our bot, which allows you to get better at sales for free so that you can make even more money now without having to spend another dollar. Go check it out now.
So that one is a high percentage that we see where that one gets out of hand. That's even what took us down back in the day, you know, like 10 years ago in that company where we had to all separate ways and go do our own thing. So to me,
Which ended up being a good thing.
which ended up being a great thing for all of us. And honestly, like this guy's still doing well there. That's where Gary split off as well too, and like doing his thing. So that ended up being a great thing. But that I will say it's probably, I would say, between that and the bloat that can happen just in the marketing that they're not tracking, that they're not getting a good return, but they're just throwing the money out the door without any return back, or diminished returns that they weren't tracking consistently. Those are the top two. And I'd say it's like 60-40, because it's like if you're not watching the marketing, it's very quickly to get out of hand and to go down that rabbit hole. And I would say that's the percentage that takes the businesses down. And that's probably the biggest split between those two that hurt them. I was just thinking about this while you asked that question. When I've gone to these masterminds, I've been to lots of real estate masterminds, and I can count on one hand when a new member came in and they had more financial acumen than the average person, you know, like, and they knew their numbers. They came in, and I'll never forget, because it's less than 5. All of them said that their margins, or like their bottom line percentage from what they were bringing in, was not less than 30%. All of them. And to me, that was that pattern of like, this is where I have to get, and these were operators with like 2-3 people, some of them had a lot more, but like out of those 3 or 4 people, you know, like one of them was a solopreneur, one of them had a couple people, one of them had like 10 people on the team. They knew their numbers, and none of them had less than 30%, and they weren't worried about that overhead ballooning or these because they had a pulse on all those numbers and the margins for everything. And it's if you want another great book, the Dan Kennedy series, the No BS line of books, he's got one called Managing People and Profits, and it just gives a breakdown. These are the numbers you should know as the owner. If you read The Road Less Stupid, at the very back of the book, it's called the CEO Scorecard. And like, here are the top numbers you should be tracking as the CEO. And he gives like a little snippet there. I'll do this. If you guys go to simplecfo.com/red, I've put that together as like another thing that we do with our clients. Like I could send you that one pager of just like, here's the CEO Scorecard and like the best things you should be tracking. And if you maniacally track them, it's crazy how they get better. Yeah. So that's where I would say, if you're not tracking the payroll marketing, those two things, probably it's heavier on the payroll than it is the marketing that takes people down, just because that gets out of hand.
Well, and I can say for sure, like where I've faced problems the last few years, it was the payroll.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to let people go, they were not providing a 3X ROI from their position. But I held on to it. I was like, well, let's weather the storm together.
Yeah.
And eventually they got let go.
And we're all closer, right? So as these entrepreneurs, we're not out in this ivory tower sitting way up there and like don't have direct communication, with the people that are working with us. So it's harder for that for sure. So there's that emotional aspect. I've also come to realize the longer I've been in business that as business goes through cycles, your business is going to change. And that's where if you're doing good onboarding with people, you want to make sure that they understand this is a small business. It's going to go through change. We're going to onboard you for this position and everything, but just letting you know this is not a corporate position. Like, so you can do some of that legwork up front, but obviously it's never a fun conversation if you have to let them go. No. But that's just part of it too. We've seen, businesses go up and down. We've had the ups and downs of like better years and than others, and being able to see, okay, what does the team really need to look like? But we have to make those decisions from the business aspect, because ultimately, if you do go down, the whole ship goes down, and then no one has a job, and then you're out looking for another one. We have seen an uptick in that in recent days. We've reached out to some past clients that we've worked with just to check in on them, where left on good terms, it was just time or whatever it was at that point. And we've reached out to, I think we just did a round of like 15. And out of those 15, I think it was like 7 or 8 have gone back to a W-2. Like, because just of the marketplace and their area, and like they just didn't want to keep doing the business. And some of them were just going through tough times personally. So it's like I've seen an uptick in people going back into the workforce too that were entrepreneurs in this space.
It's interesting. We do a lot of follow-ups. We've got our database, 28,000 people in our system. If you guys are watching, sorry if you're getting spammed by us, but we are a sales and marketing company too.
Right. Comes with the territory.
And the number of people are like, opting out because they're no longer in the business blows my mind.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of people that are no longer in the business. Which, if you guys are watching and listening right now, you guys should be much better positioned.
Right. Exactly. Better position. It's really weeding out, like, do you really want to do this? Do you want to do what it takes to do it in a market that's not going to cover your mistakes? Yeah. That's really the decision you have to make.
And then you said something interesting.
Good.
Diminished returns.
Yes.
So not only are you getting an ROI, are you getting diminishing returns?
Yeah.
I don't hear a lot of people talk about that. What does that mean?
That means that you've been pouring into this marketing channel and it's been getting, this one was going gangbusters and getting 10x. But you keep pouring money into it, and the more money you pour into it, you do not get more than 10x. If anything, the more money you pour into it now, you're going to see 9, 8, 7, 5, 4, 3, just because you tapped out at a certain dollar amount that you're able to, on a monthly basis, get the max return for the dollar that you were spending. Yeah. So if you just keep throwing money at it, it's not that your percentage goes up, it's that it actually goes down because you're throwing more money but not necessarily getting more leads in the door.
Yeah. So like a simple concept is like, hey, we're spending 10 grand a month on PPC, we're getting 5x return, let's double it.
Right. We should get more, or even if we got a 5x return on that, that'd be great, but you see it now go to a 2, 3x or 1x.
But as an extreme example, right, for a thought experiment, okay, $10,000 a month, we're getting, a 5x return, but we spent $1 million in PPC.
Yeah, we should just go to the moon.
You're not getting a 5x return.
Exactly.
You're spending $1 million a month on PPC in the Phoenix market.
Right.
Yeah. So just simple thought experiment to kind of see diminishing returns.
That would be a great experiment, though, just to see if you did get it, because if you blew past some of the ceilings that people run into at certain levels, but I don't want to run that experiment.
I don't want to run that experiment.
Yeah, not right now.
I've done a lot of experimenting. I've got a crazy.
Warren Buffett, I hear, can, because he's hitting on a lot of cash. So
He could do probably $1 trillion. And so another thing I heard you talk about, we're talking about the trends, like 7-figure years, 7-figure months. And eventually we're going to have a follow-up series of 7-figure weeks.
Right? In 7-figure days.
A concept of like, hey, should we spend this dollar or not?
Yeah.
Which is a question that's not often asked. We have a lot of guys in our industry, myself included, who want to just grow and scale and build. And it's harder now to like say, hey, should we spend this dollar or not?
Yeah.
That question is often asked because the things that we hear, Grant Cardone has this rant, right? It was like, hey, every dollar's in a bank account, the rats are eating at it.
Yeah.
Right? Inflation is going to kill you. You can't have money in the bank. Money's always got to work for you. We hear this saying a lot. But when you were kind of talking about some of these people having success, they're like, well, should we spend this dollar or should we not spend this dollar? So you want to expand upon that point?
I mean, if we're going to use Grant Cardone as an example, I mean, he's a sales and marketing to the max guy. So he's wanting to put your money out on the street into his stuff. So, like, I always look at that with a grain of salt. I like the
Wait, are you saying
the
he has an
attitude,
agenda?
right? Like, go figure, right? So that's where you have to come back to. Let's come back to a different frame of reference here. A lot of people think that they're in the real estate. If you're listening to this podcast, you might think you're playing the real estate game, but you're not, okay? You're playing the game of money. A lot of people just haven't been taught how to play the game of money. And not only that, they're not playing their own game. They're playing someone else's. Like, they think they should be doing X amount of deals, or Grant Cardone says the money in your bank is the rats are eating at it. And like, well, you're an idiot, and like, go invest in everything. But what is it for you that will give you peace of mind? I go back to that guy where I asked him, would $150,000 in your bank account give you more peace of mind and sleep better at night, or having the equity in the property and being able to do some of the other things, owning that asset? And I'm like, that's what it comes down to is, are you playing your own game? Do you know how to play the game of money? Do you know how to win it? Do you have good habits with the money? But then are you playing your own? Like, so that way someone doesn't come in and they say, well, you should be doing this. What do you mean I should be? Do you really know what my goals are and what I want for this business? Or is it just like you think this? Now, I will say there is something to be said of pushing you to the level that you should that you should be at. Like, if you can grow and scale and you're only staying here, but it's out of fear and not a conscientious decision to say, no, this is the period of life. Maybe you've got young kids at home. You don't want to be rocking the boat as much depending on your current situation. Well, if you're a little bit, maybe you're single or you don't have the same types of situations, or you have, greater risk factor, or your spouse has a greater, like risk tolerance as well too. Well, then you need someone to come and kick you in the pants maybe to be able to put that money on the street and actually grow. But a lot of people, that's not their issue. A lot of people.
If you're watching this podcast, it's probably not your issue.
It's probably not your issue if you're watching the podcast. So the other side of that coin is, do you have the money right now in your bank account that if something terrible were to happen, like you got your leg is chewed off by a Rottweiler or whatever it might be, like, and you're laid up, the money that you have now, could it sustain you for the next month, the next 6 months? Like, what kind of peace of mind do you have from the bank account that would affect your family, that would affect you, that would affect the business and the people if you have a team? You have to make sure that you're making the decisions from your situation, and not because, especially since we use the Grant Cardone example, not some big guru out there like that who definitely has an agenda. His agenda has to line up with yours for you to be able to then go down that rabbit hole and say, yes, I want to invest in Grant Cardone stuff, and I want to invest in his syndications and all the stuff he's doing, or his sales program, which obviously you need to be using Steve. So that's where it's like making sure that you have the business that you like and not someone else's that you're trying to build.
So I'm hearing again is intentionality.
Yes.
Put the money to work. Don't put the money to work. As long as you have a plan and you're executing that plan,
exactly,
you're good.
And it's your plan.
Yeah.
It's your plan that you've thought about, going back to the Keith Cunningham book, like, asking yourself those questions. Yourself the questions of what's the upside, what's the downside, can I live with the downside, and is this really what I want? Because that's usually the number one question. That's the hardest question to answer as a human being. What do you want? Like, really, what do you want? And being able to say, okay, well, if you can't just give me an answer like that, I'm going to have to dig deeper. And like, okay, tell me about your current situation. Tell me about your family. Tell me about what's important to you. Who does the money affect in your life? You know, so it's like going down that road and really being able to be a good question asker. I'm reading another one good, like the question is the answer or something. It's a really good one that I just have downloaded it and someone else recommended to the school that we go to, so that we send our daughter to. So it's really about asking the real questions and being intentional, like you said.
So almost like don't make any major financial decisions until you know what you really want, until you've taken the time to actually sat down and think what you really want.
About what you really want, and does this decision that you make serve you and ultimately put you in a better position? And that does mean taking risk. I'm not telling you shouldn't take risk and that you just should sit on cash all the time. I'm just telling you, take one extra step that we don't usually do and just think about it first and ask yourself some better questions. That's why we keep circling back to The Road Less Stupid. It's literally like 40 chapters of asking hard questions at the end of each chapter versus him just telling you what to do, which is what I love about that book.
Yeah, it's been over a year. I should go through it again.
Yes, I have it on my desk right here, and literally, if I have a call or whatever, I usually am picking that up. What do I need right now to be asking myself?
Yeah, it's good because it's got like kind of like choose your own adventure. Like,
it is.
Where am I stuck?
Exactly.
Here are the questions to ask while
it is not linear. It's more just what am I facing right now, and what question do I need to be asking myself?
Yeah. So speaking of questions, so clearly you're very passionate about finances, right?
Yeah, I would say so. On the spectrum.
Why are you so passionate about what you do? Because there's so many options out there. Like we're in CG together, we're in Family Mastermind together. We listen to different podcasts, we read all the different books. There's lots of options. Why finances?
When I first got into this, it was from that company. We were doing lots of deals. We were doing 25 deals a month, but spending 26 worth out the door. Like, and then going to big masterminds as well and hearing that from the other people. And like, I heard it over and over again. I'm like, this is epidemic. And then that forced us to move away from that area and like upend everything, move to a different part of the country. Thankfully, I had personal stuff to be able to fall back on and worked with another investor who was only doing one deal a month in the same exact situation. Like, money's coming in, where's it all going? I don't understand, I can't pay myself. It's like, it doesn't matter if you're doing 25 deals a month, one deal a month, one deal a quarter. Like, this is what's coming up over and over again. So I saw it was more from a need basis at the beginning. Then once Gary Harper was the one to tell me to read Profit First when I started Simple CFO. So I read that book on his advice, and then I was like, this is it. I could be passionate about this.
Simple CFO first? I thought it was another way around.
So, say that again?
I thought you would have read Profit First and then started Simple CFO.
Well, no, I started Simple CFO first, which was crazy. And I only had Rich, my first guy that I worked with. He was my first client. He's the one that took a chance on me and said, you should start this and I'll be your first client. He was the one in Richmond, Virginia that just put me on a different life path. But one of the things he said too, once, because all I did with him was I gave him the clarity to know what was coming in, what was going out, and really what could you take home. And he said that was life-changing. That's what was Simple CFO was born from. And while talking to Gary and saying, hey, I'm starting this, I've done this with this one guy, he's like, you should read Profit First. So Simple CFO came first and then Profit First. But then every client since the first one, we've implemented Profit First in place. And I'm so passionate because now I've seen the other side where if people actually get this and it becomes a habit and a discipline to be able to stack cash and to be able to know where the money's going and be intentional. And if they are like Joe, where they're fanatical with their numbers, you can go from 7-figure years to 7-figure months. And that is fun. To me, what we touch is true financial freedom. Because even if you get more deals in the door and you're really good at getting deals in the door, but you don't have a system to catch it, you are always going to be on that rat race, like in the Cash Flow 101 game, just trying to land on the little green spaces, and you're never building a bridge to the fun track or financial freedom. That's why I'm so passionate about it, is because now I've seen people go from going out of business to literally stacking the cash, being able to weather the cycles. Honestly, too, I love it even when we don't work with people and they come up to me and said, I've just implemented one bank account from the system, and now I have 6 months of reserves, and I've never had reserves in my business before. I've never had this peace of mind. Like, to me, that is a huge payoff to say, just with the concept that I was able to get out there, it made a difference in their life, and they're tasting what we're all trying to go after, and it's that financial freedom. So that's why I'm passionate, because I touch the keep side, and like, I want to help you keep more of it.
Yeah. Were you able to go back and help Wayne?
That is so funny. No, I've talked to him over the years, but he's never been a client.
He set you on this journey.
He did. Gary was a big advocate as well, too. He was actually...
I mean, because you got to witness it firsthand. You were in the meetings.
Right. I was in the meetings. And Wayne, I love him to death, but I don't know if I would have him as a client. There's just trauma from that experience. But honestly, what he did, though, and what he's doing now is good for him, because now he's got a smaller team. He's able to do what he needs to do. Do I wish I could help him and get on that and get all this implemented? Of course. But no, I have not.
Yeah. And then pivoting.
Yeah.
Last question here. Selfish question.
Yeah.
So you saw my daughter over there, right?
Yeah.
First day of work.
Like, this is her first day of work?
It's her first day of work.
Wow. Congratulations to her.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So she just turned
big.
14.
14, so now the child labor laws are out. I'm just
Yeah.
kidding.
Yeah, whatever. Right?
What are those?
Rules are for other people.
Exactly. This is a small business, ain't it?
So one of the things we're talking about
Yeah.
is budgeting as a family. So I got 14, 12, and 8.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm looking at a few different budgeting options. Do you have any recommendations for families and apps and whatever for budgeting as a family?
You Need a Budget is something that a lot of people use, the YNAB system.
That's what we're leaning on or leaning towards.
That one seems to be the one that anyone who's implemented Profit First in their business, they use. Multiple people of our clients also use YNAB, the You Need a Budget system, because it parallels a lot of that, and you can fit like a Profit First type thing into it, and the percentages and all that. So that's probably the one I lean towards the most for the budgeting. For my wife and myself, we use like a Profit First type setup, like for our personal finances, just on a Google sheet, that we do, and we have a monthly meeting. Like, okay, what's the next month's budget? What are the different allocation percentages? Boom, let's run. So we try to make it easy as possible, and we just know the percentages and the amounts that we need in the different buckets.
Yeah. So yeah, we started to do that. We're set up her checking her savings account because she doesn't have a say in it, right?
Yeah.
We're creating the accounts.
Yeah.
But we're paying her, and then 90% goes in a checking account, 10% goes in a savings account, which you can't touch.
Good.
And then out of the checking account, she's going to have to choose which charity she wants to donate 10% to every single month.
That's awesome.
So we're starting that habit.
It's good to
early.
start it now and early,
Yeah.
because a lot of people think, oh, I'll do that when I
day.
have money.
Yeah.
But that's like the same thing of like, well, I'll pay myself later in the business when I have money, and then that day never comes either. So
Yeah.
start where you are.
Yeah, we're building that discipline now.
Good. I love that.
So someone wants to find out more
Yeah.
about what you do, wants to get a hold of you, wants to work with you. How can they best do that?
Yeah, simplecfo.com/red. You get that downloaded on the second page as a book. If you want to book a call with our team, it's right there. You'd also get all that information. I will send you, if you come from that link specifically, I will send you the CEO scorecard, which I really haven't given out to anyone at this point.
Yeah. Perfect. Awesome. Thank you very much. What are some last thoughts you want to leave all the listeners with?
Make sure you have a good financial foundation. Make sure you have, if you don't have a good bookkeeping system process person, like get that $10, $20 per hour task off your plate if you're doing it. Get a cash flow management system in place like Profit First. And people say, well, I've started it or I've adapted it. There's no wrong way to do Profit First other than you don't set it up and you don't run it. Do it with one bank account and 1%. Like, just start somewhere. That would be another big thing. And then make sure that profit is a habit, not just an event. Make sure it's not, I'm going to pay myself one day. Even if you're in a W-2, or even if you're like, hey, I don't know if I can pay myself, this is where you need to start, as low as 1% or something, just to make sure that for every dollar that comes in, you're intentional with it, but you're also getting into good habits. What Steve just said with his daughter is perfect for the point I'm trying to get across. even when you don't feel like you have enough, you have to start the habits where you are. So start the habit where you can and where you are, and don't worry about, am I doing this right? Just start it.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve.
Pleasure.
As always. Thanks for having me.
Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next time.
Jump on the Steve Trang. Disruptors.